Hi everyone, my name is David. I'm a teacher from New Jersey. I'm a English language arts teacher. I also teach a little bit of computer science, STEAM, and I also happen to be the leader of the GEG group over here where I am located right now in Mexico. So I'm a pretty hands-on teacher. Today I'll be quickly showing you how to integrate podcasts into your classroom. Now, just a very quick introduction. Most of you teachers already know how to do this. It's not really complicated. It's just basically copying and pasting. But we're going to, put some more juice into it. I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple more moments. Now, some information about this. Well, by the way, let me just share my screen a bit here with you. Okay, so don't worry, you will get a copy of this of these Jamboard slides at the end. So I just want to really quickly talk about why it's important to integrate these podcasts. So one of the reasons that I really advocate for them is because as teachers, we teach various subjects. We day to day tell our students what's to be expected of them. We want them to exceed, to do well. We want them to learn in class and outside of class, but sometimes we don't know exactly how to kind of tailor that to their needs. So this is where this comes in, right? So I've spoken about this before. Some people who probably have already known me or seen some of the videos I've made. The interesting thing about podcasts that I like so much is that they complement what we teach in the classroom. So, for example, I'm an English language arts teacher. I mostly teach English here in Mexico, besides some other things. So, for example, if I just wanted to, if it was Monday and I taught about present perfect, what I would do is I could also assign a podcast episode based on present perfect. Now, why would I do that if I already showed it in class? Well, there are different reasons here. I'll give you a couple. Number one, over a period of time, students might get accustomed or used to your voice, so it's not something new to them. Let's say the brain particularly already picks up your speed, the way you narrate, the way you talk, and it really doesn't make much of a dent sometimes. I mean, not to make us teachers feel bad, but over time, students get used to our voice. So what we want to do is when we teach them something, we can also use a podcast as a complementary piece of information that will help them with what was taught in class. That way, not only the brain focuses on what you taught them, but is also exposed to someone else's voice. When that happens, it registers new information in a different way, since it is someone who is presenting that is has no idea maybe who this is. So the brain is picking up a different kind of pattern here, and what happens is the student will also pay attention to the same kind of material that is being taught, only except now it's being also taught by someone else, right? So and that makes it quite interesting. Another point is that it's an activity that really does not require students to be sitting in front of a computer or in front of some kind of screen or something like that. It is an activity that you can assign as homework that definitely they can do while they're maybe washing the dishes, while they're walking their dog, while they're painting, maybe they're doing some other sort of activity, right? So it doesn't really require their hands. They can just really do this with their tablet or smartphones, most likely, just connecting their earphones or whatever they're using, AirPods, whatever. But the point is, they can just connect the device to their phone or tablet and just listen to it on the go. All right. So it's a really portable kind of assignment that you can give them, and it really doesn't require them to be sitting at a desk in order to complete it. Um, One of the other features is that, as you probably already know, you can pause, you can stop, you can replay, you can fast forward, you can go back on the audio track. And it's really wonderful because that's something that really students need. If something was not clear, they can go back. If they really like something and they just want to listen to it one more time, they can do so again without really much effort. So it really makes it a really interesting kind of tool here, where we can use it in class just as something to complement and to also ensure students are getting what we want from the class, as well as getting some deeper insight, probably from someone else who's also teaching on the same subject as we are, right? And since they've never seen them, they haven't heard their voice probably, so the brain will also pick up this activity, and it'll be also recorded in hopefully long-term memory, or at least during the semester which we're teaching them. So I'm just going to quickly break down a couple of the things here. As we know, one of my favorite places to go for podcasts are Google Podcast. You can also go to Spotify, Apple. These are three most popular ones. I'm pretty sure students and teachers here know many other places, but at least these three are very, very popular. You can find a lot of material here in these three websites or areas. Now for Moat, which is this one over here. This is one of my interesting ones. This kind of feature here is free. You can there's a free trial or a free version, and then there's a paid version. But the free version is very versatile. You can leave small audio clips that will really engage with your students, not only just reading, just a typical comment, but if you want, you can also quickly insert an audio clip that will give real-time feedback to your students, and they can listen to it, listen to your voice. They can also reply with the same tool. So this is a very neat Chrome extension that you can find right there in the store, and it allows you to insert these kind of voice clips. You can put it in Google Classroom, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, websites, almost anywhere. You can basically insert this. All right. So finally, this brings us to Anchor by Spotify. So Anchor was just acquired by the Spotify company. As we know, it's a very wonderful tool when it comes to not only listening to podcasts, but also making them. Now, in this video, we're not going to go into the depths of how to make a podcast. We'll probably see that some other time. But right now, I just wanted to show you how you can easily integrate the podcast episodes, most likely into your LMS, whether it be Google Classroom, Schoology, Adobe, whatever you're using. It's really versatile since it's basically just a URL that we kind of have to copy and insert. But there's some other things that we can also do to make sure it's more memorable and beneficial to our students in the long term. So if you're ever interested in having podcast episodes or creating podcasts, elaborating them for you and the students in the classroom, and possibly been having students do debate activities, research and analysis, points of view, and so forth, Anchor is just a wonderful tool for students to start experimenting with and making their own podcast activity. And the best thing is you can share this with, with other teachers, students. Students can share them with their parents, with family, with friends. And it just really gives a wonderful touch and energy, input and output to students' voices, which I think is quite interesting. So let's dive in. Okay. So this is just a little neat Jamboard slide that I made for you guys. So it's called, level up, recap, listen, and record. So how does this work? Well, basically there are three sections here. In the green section, we want students to kind of take some notes. Now, you can either print this out or just, give it to them in digital format. You can put this on Google Classroom or any other LMS that you're using for that matter. So in the green section, students are going to be typing in, or just with the note with the post-it icon that we have here on Jamboard, they can be putting in notes about what they remember in class. So once again, maybe if you were teaching about history, the War of 1812, or if you were teaching something in regards to chemistry, right? Molecules and atoms, whatever you were teaching, and we want the students to record that information as much as they can, and basically what resonates more with them, what they were able to retain in class, we want them to write that or type it up in the green section. So this comes under the learning class area. All right. After that, the podcast episode notes. Now, we want the student to listen to the podcast, right, as many times as they want, as much as they need, because that's the benefit of this, and write some notes on that area. Right. We want them to listen to say, hey, I remember this in class, but, this person is mentioning this other thing I think is quite important. So I'm going to write that down. Or, maybe this was not mentioned. I have no idea what it is. I'm interested. I'm just going to write it down. OK, so in the first two sections, we have something that was already taught by us, the teachers in the classroom, that they remember. The second section deals with notes that were mostly, let's say, in the podcast. Right. And then finally, in the third area, we have questions and contrasts. Now here, students can write questions that maybe were unanswered. Maybe there was something that was mentioned in the classroom and in the podcast, and they couldn't quite connect it. or something that the podcast mentioned that was not touched upon in classroom at all, and the student deems it as a very valid question to have and ask, or something may not be clear. Students can also write their own comments as to what they thought, what maybe the podcast got right, maybe something that they thought they missed, something that the podcast got very well, something that you in the classroom also got well that this person forgot to mention in the podcast. I mean, why not? If information is overlapping, similarities, that can also come here into this section. All right. So we just want students to really listen and then bring, whether it be printed or paper or digitally, we want them to have that input output, not vaguely, but very, very active and efficiently being portrayed. So we don't want just students to have the information somewhere up in their neurons or brain. We want them also to kind of have a correct output and just display it for themselves, display it for the classroom, for their own personal learning. It's very necessary to have the students produce some kind of output from the input that we're giving them, both in the classroom and through the podcast. Let's go to the last slide here. All right. Now this one's quite interesting. Now I know that not all of our students are drawing masters. Not all of them are exceptional artists. I mean, some are. I've met quite many in my time. So, but maybe not others are. Nevertheless, this is just, I think, very encouraging when it comes to visual mapping, sketching, sketch notes, and so forth. If students are being able to showcase their talents here, not only from an artistic side, but also just in a way from an organizational point of view, where they can just make a map of what was being taught, connect the dots, see how these things relate to them, how they resonate, how one thing leads to another. It's just very interesting to see how students, in each of their own minds and ways, can display uh, the classroom information and the complement of the podcast episode and produce a wonderful output, right? I'm not going to be surprised if you guys all of a sudden see some of your students skyrocket with this, because as teachers, we need to understand that sometimes we might neglect some artistic abilities in the classroom. I know that we have STEAM versus STEM, and basic difference is that the A is there for artistic abilities, and I just think that at times it might be missed. Right. So this is just a very interesting way. Once again, maybe not all students think that they're artists, or maybe some get frustrated. Hopefully that's not the case. We just want students to draw out what they learn. Right? We want them to connect the dots. We want them to expand in their knowledge. We want to see how they visualize information and how they can represent it in a very interesting graphical form. All right, doesn't have to be fancy. They don't have to use very symmetrical lines or anything like that. No, we just want their creativity at this point to explode and continue with the beneficial and wonderful output that they're doing. We don't want to stump that. We just want to make sure it actually grows and increases. All right. So I just thought now it's a wonderful way. Not only did they type the information as we saw on the second slide, but now they're also doing some kind of a diagram, some kind of a map, some kind of visual sketch note, some kind of a drawing that manifests what they're learning and shows how they see the information play out in their own minds, which is very interesting. All right, you can get some really cool insight from your students' mind and cognitive skills when you give them something like this, right? So my recommendation is also not to time it, all right? Wonderful works of art, are not produced in 30 seconds or anything like that. So we want to make sure students feel the peace and calm to go ahead and just showcase, take time to develop their own personal sketch of the information, and give it a place, give it a time, get meaning to themselves. So there are two basic instructions at the bottom. Number one says do a recap of the episode in an artistic, creative, sketch kind of way. Draw what resonates best with you. All right. Number two, give a rating of the episode. Right. So students can either fill it in or circle it, whatever they want to do. Students can just go ahead and mark how many stars they felt the episode got. I thought that was just a fun feature, something to add there. You guys can use those stars however way you want. All right. So let's do something else. So let's imagine, in my case, I use Google Classroom. So how do we get started? Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to go open Google Classroom. All right. Got my shortcuts here at the top. right? And I'm going to go to my A2 English classroom over here. All right. So as you can see here, I have some interesting things. In fact, no, not this one. Let me see, which one was the one? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, let's stick with that one. Okay. So for example, if we want to start something, I can go to classwork. All right. And I'm just going to go to create. All right. So here you guys can actually assign questions, material. Those of you who already use Google Classroom, this is not new to you, so I'm not going to waste time here. You can either choose assignment, question. Just for the sake of not doing it just as an assignment, I'm going to go ahead and just go with question. I'm going to assign a question here. All right. You can schedule across multiple classes. That's a new feature here. All right. So we have a question. I'm just going to type, for example, okay, what do you think is something that you can put into practice today? All right, it's a very short answer, short question, right? So instructions, I'm just going to put here real quick. Please listen to the podcast episode and be sure to take notes and draw your own sketch recap at the end. All right, those are my instructions. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at that mode extension that I talked about at the beginning. I'm just going to go ahead and click the extension here at the top. All right, it says you can record a voice. Sure. All right, let me just see. All right, hopefully it'll allow me. Oh, that's going to take me to, sorry about that. And all sites. All right. Hello, students. Please make sure that you're using the Jamboard template that I left under the link to do your sketches. All right, let's copy to the clipboard. Insert. All right. Oh, let me type that question again. So, what did you learn today that you can put into practice? There we go. So, next thing we're going to do is going to go to our podcast website. In this case, I'm going to use Google Podcasts, which is one of my favorite ones. So, we have one over here, as you can see, TED Talks Daily. I feel like I'm going to use that one. All right, let's look for something interesting here. So for example, how can schools nurture every student's genius? All right, that sounds interesting to me. So, all right, I'll just go ahead, copy the link here. Back to my LMS. You can click here on the link. I'm going to add that. Okay. I'm also going to add the link to my sketches here on Jamboard. All right, another link. All right. All right, you can add the points here as you want, the due date, topic. Students can edit answer if they want. Yeah, they can edit it if they want. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click ask. And then we're going to take a look at how it is. All right. Okay, so here we have our question. All right, so what did you learn today that you can put into practice? Okay, we have the TED Talks link here to the Google Podcast episode. The student has also the links here to the Jamboard, and there's my little note here from Moat. Let's listen to it. All right. Great. I hope you guys were able to listen to it. All right. So next thing, you can also leave comments. All right. And for those of you that have the extension, all right, you can also even click here on the little circle icon. Thanks for submitting your work. I look forward to listening to it later on today. You click on it and you send. All right. Quite similar. Thanks for submitting your work. All right. Now it also has the transcript option for those of you who are VIP users. There's also a little transcript that appears at the bottom of your voice note. Let's see if we can listen to it. Thanks for submitting your work. I look forward to listening to it later on today. All right. And there you have it. So basically, this is how you can insert podcasts into your classroom. It's not a very hard thing. You teachers know how this is done. We're not really reinventing the wheel here. But what I do want you to share with you is just not only can we just copy and paste and here you go. Here's the episode. Give me a summary or something. We can actually also add Google Slides or Jamboard templates or some other form of activity that students will definitely be wonderfully engaged in. And as I said before, it doesn't require them at first to be in front of a computer or a laptop. This is something that they can do really quick from their SMS right within their own smartphone. All they need is just to plug in their earphones, listen to the podcast. If something wasn't clear, go back to it again. Maybe share it with a family or friend. You can put them to work in teams. However you want to do it is quite fine. And once you do that, the next part comes, okay, so what do we do after that? And I think this is just a wonderful way that you can add some more power, some more juice to this assignment. It's quite interesting. You can also complement it with the mode extension, as I mentioned before, and leave some voice notes at the end or at the beginning with instructions or anything that you would like, any feedback. I'm pretty sure students would really also like to hear you, and it's just a fun way rather than just reading, plain text comments. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. All right. I hope it inspired you, helped you to take a look at some other different ways that students and teachers can work together for having these kinds of things. This kind of podcast. As I said before, it's not just giving them an audio clip or just an episode, listen to it. No, there's just different ways that you can leave this as an assignment. And for those of you teachers who are even interested in just taking it a step further and creating a own podcast channel for your classroom and making sure it works out for the community, for the students, for parents, for teachers, for them to listen to their child's voices and expressions and have them also share their own thoughts and feelings of what they're learning in classroom as well as from a particular subject. I mean, why not? This is just a very wonderful way to go ahead and do it. So thank you so much for having me at this conference. I really enjoyed. I hope you guys walk away with something that you can definitely just go ahead and implement in the classroom. The sky's the limit when it comes to teacher creativity, and you guys have been doing a wonderful job ever since pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and even post-pandemic. Education has been suffering many changes, and we as educators have been walking away with not walking away, but just actually walking alongside all these changes and transformation, which is of course to the benefit of the whole educational community, right? Students, teachers, and so forth, parents as well. There's just so many elements in the educational community that we help, that we motivate, that we lend out a hand in various ways. So to all you teachers out there, continue doing wonderful work. You guys are a wonderful pillar in society, and we're helping future generations really develop their core skills as much as they can. As long as they're in our hand, we'll do our very best to make sure that they increase and do well, not only in school, but also outside of school. So thanks for having me. Best wishes to each and every one of you, and let's go on. Thanks.